el hum saura.
So that piece of straw.
It's just that, well, I think it is that it's an old saying that you'll always have a bit of money in your purse or that.
For the year?
For the year, yeah.
And when did you get that piece of straw?
I got it, the priest has to bless it first, and then just kind of Stephen's Day, day after Stephen's Day. A friend of mine, every year she gets me the straw. So.
And it's in your purse now?
Yeah.
For good luck for the year.
For the
It's
year.
actually in your phone.
It's actually in my phone, yeah. On the receipts.
Isn't that lovely? Yeah, and I'm sure some of you people out there will have a little bit of straw in your purse too.
Well, it's the tradition that the Kilkenny men always came to Wexford to find the women. The farmers did.
Did it?
Yeah, and the Wexford farmers always went up to Carla to get their women.
Up to the mountains, yeah.
It continued up to the 20th century. It was very strong.
Well, I came from the coast to find Aileen here, and she's up in the mountains, so maybe that tradition is carrying on still.
I'm sure you had to clear out altogether.
Did you?
Yeah.
Come here to me. There was great words actually for words, Robbie, like the word like a stook. Where's that from? Like a stook.
Stook is stua is anything that's bent over. That's in Irish. So stua is also a peak. So Stua Lion is Mount Leinster. But stuach means it's peaked, or it's bending over. Now we the square bales came along then, and we used to put them in stooks. You'd actually build little houses with them.
Yeah.
Now first of all, there'd be lean-tos, four. You'd have two on that side that way, and then two on that side. And then if it was a heavy enough area, you could have 10 going along 10, and then one on each end holding up.
Yeah.
And they'd have to have the knot on the bottom on the outside.
Yeah.
Because that way you'd know that the rain would go with the grain, and it'd be protected and it wouldn't get wet at all.
Yeah.
And you could leave the hay out there for 2 weeks, and even if a good lot of rain came along, it wouldn't really make all that much difference because they were fairly safe even at that stage.
And there were certain days as well. There was a certain date you had down from your father from cutting the hay.
And he didn't know, it wasn't even associated with St. John's Day, but you'd start cutting the grass. You'd start cutting the hay on the 24th of June. Or the clearest day after that. If it was rain on the 24th, you wouldn't do it. But you'd be looking at the BBC weather on the Sunday before the 24th.
The BBC weather, just used a very fancy word.
Well, it's straightforward here because you didn't put the aerial, you'd pick up the signal coming across.
This is 1982 we're talking
about. So you'd get that coming across. You see, because he'd watch that on a Sunday because the week forecast was the better than anything, he said.
Yeah.
So he'd get that, and then he'd have to work out then, okay, what's the best day after 24th of June or 24th of June nearest to? And the 29th for Spuds, that's St. Peter and Paul's Day.
Yeah.
But 24th for hay. Now after that it was all weather based, but you could spend you'd have to spend a few days turning. Nobody turns the hay anymore. You used to turn the hay, and you'd have a special turner for that. And then you'd have to be little square balers. Now the square balers came in, I suppose, into Ireland in the 60s, but they went out. I mean, I think the last ones we used would have been the early 90s.
My neighbour, literally the field beside us here, Gerald Murphy, still is a square baler, and he still turns the hay. He literally there's 2 acres here beside us, and Gerald will do it. Now, not everyone is doing it now, to be fair. People do it for people with horses because they're easier to lift and to move around, whatever. But I've recorded a man up in your up past Gorey there a couple of weeks ago. And they were on about the 29th of June. No, the 29th of June was the day St. Peter and Paul's. It was a day when you'd normally routed the early spuds. It was the kind of day where you take the early spuds out. But he had St. Peter and Paul's for the hay as well. And maybe give or take the last week in June, whatever. But you said you'd always get a cut before the start of July. Was that?
Oh no, the whole thing. Well, Well, you see, this is a new thing that came in with the European Union. They said there's a new law. They pay you now to not do anything with it until the 1st of July.
Yeah.
And so that's for the wildlife, so they get a better chance to try to bring the corn crate back or whatever. It's all built into the whole payout system, CAP or whatever they paid,
Yeah.
loads of different acronyms. But but previously, so all that's gone out to the 24th. Again, all these traditions will go for different reasons because modernity comes in, and this time it's the European Union killing the St. John's Day tradition. And, but different parts of the country would have had different, maybe you see up here, it would have been the 29th, but the mountain conditions might have been a little bit different.
That was near Gordy.
Was it?
Yeah, over along the east coast. But come here to me. There was other great words. There was words that were getting back to the Stooks.
Oh, just to say there was the science behind it. Dry matter digestibility.
Yeah.
Protein content was much higher around the longest day of the year, the solstice, which is around the 21st of June. Yeah. So and after that, it fell off. It was like a cliff.
Yeah.
The dry matter, the protein content of the hay would literally go down very, very fast, very quickly. So the closer you could do it actually to the 21st of June, scientifically was the way to do it. But I don't know why.
So that was a natural science because the sun was at its highest.
But in their mind, the longest day of the year was St. John's Day.
Yeah.
Because that was the pinnacle of summer in their mind.
Yeah.
Because that was coming right smack between 1st of May and the 1st of August, or whatever the equivalent would be in terms of days. Remember, you were saying the 5th of May, I think, was actually the May Day, etc.
Yeah.
But no, that's where. So that's where all that comes from.
That's interesting because some people celebrate the 5th of May as kind of the turning point. While that man in Gorey had the 29th, which would be 4 or 5 days on from. So give or take a couple of days either side. But that was the pinnacle. That was at the actual pure natural science. It was at its finest.
Oh yeah.
And after that, then
dry matter digestibility. They didn't know the word for it, but there was a method in their madness. Yeah, definitely.
There was a lovely word as well. Whatever. Again, back to my own father. We always had cocks of hay, and probably your own father or grandfather probably had cocks of hay as well.
Oh, definitely. Well, and there was stories told about people who'd be able to jump over several of them in a row. Because to be for a good old sport, I suppose. But my father now says that they'd be around maybe 3 feet high, maybe 4 feet high, so it'd be easy enough to jump them, I suppose.
We used to play the game. The father would get maybe, I got off the top of my head now, maybe 4 or 5 cocks, probably height wise, probably you're talking 4 or 5 foot, in the park at home. And actually, we used to call the field the park. That was probably an old Irish word for the field. It survived.
It comes from French, I think, but it came into Irish.
Yeah. But we used to play, the cousins coming out from Dublin, and we used to always play a game called cock. So basically, I'd be guarding my cock, and it's got a bad connotation now, and someone else be guarding their cock. And basically, the football, and try to kick the ball, and everyone had 5 lives, and I try to hit your cock.
That's brilliant.
But you'd make fucking shite of the cock of hay, to be fair. And then the cousins from Dublin would be coming down, and they'd be freewheeling their bikes into the cocks of hay, and the poor old father would be having a heart attack. But over in friends of mine over in Tip and Limerick and Clare and all that, they'd call
trams.
Trams, a tram, yeah. Did you come up with
I haven't, but I heard a lad from Waterford today, from the Shannon Hubble, using the word cock a fate, the cocks a hay, but that's in Irish, cocks in Waterford anyway, so I don't know what the trams, I don't know where tram had come from at all.
Yeah. And the other one thing, whatever, I was in Bunratty there at the weekend. I met a man from Clare, and we were looking at a hay bogey. And for those who don't know what a hay bogey is, I'm going to stick a photograph up. And basically, it was just a bogey that would be for you'd ratchet the cock around it, and you'd ratchet it up onto the cart, and then
you see, it was great now that the round bales took over in the hay world, because you could have 10 square bales in a round bale. And you need, it was all done with machinery. So you used to you could have 6 people bringing in a load of hay from 9 in the morning till 10 at night. For about 3 weeks, there was nothing else going on, and it was not a very intensive labour altogether. And Mike remember my grandfather made his own pulley, but that was there for a while. But then they got this 3-stroke engine or 2-stroke engine of a thing. Just some loud, you wouldn't hear yourself talking. It was going, and you'd have to throw the bales down onto it onto this conveyor belt basically, and bring them up with little spikes on it. And if you fell off the hay, you could fall onto the spikes. But it wouldn't be that; they'd be sort of curved up to catch the hay. They wouldn't hurt you, but they'd actually bring you up. The health and safety was different back then. You'd be 7 or 8 rows of square bales up on a big trailer, and the electric wires would be going that close to you. You have to keep the head down. And there's many a load as well that it sort of spill. Once you weren't on the hay that fell. Now you'd have to be fairly good with it was tied up with ropes as well when you'd be bringing it home, But and then that's all. So it's all square bales now, and it's all completely different. You know,
and I'd be honest with you. Again, me thinking in colour, I do love the visual, Rob, of the of come August and the big round bales in the fields wrapped up with the colours, and I think it's just there's a visual in my head about those as well, which I really like.
Now we have in our time done hay. People have left their hay till August.
Yeah.
And boy, that isn't pretty. Well, it is very pretty, colourful wise, but for the wrong reasons. Because the hay would be green and red, and bits of purple in it, and the cows now would be as thin as a rake after it. I don't think they'd be going near it, but
Isn't it funny? Farmers, people would have different terms for their neighbours. To be watching what their neighbour be doing and going, he's making a fucking bags of that there. There was a great term I heard up around here, and it was through the spuds. Like normally the early spuds, if you could get them in by the 17th of March, that was the tradition. I think that was found up in Offaly and Tipperary and up around the country as well, especially in the southern part of Ireland. But these lads have around here had the term called the cuckoo spuds. Now off the top of my head, it's either the 22nd of April or it's some other date in April. And basically, if you got your spuds in after that date, then you go, cuckoo spuds are in. It'd be no good. It wouldn't be worth a shite. It wouldn't grow. Yeah. And it's to do with the cuckoo as well. The cuckoo coming, but we're called the cuckoo spuds. Yeah.
Very good.
It's lovely, isn't it? You were saying as well you'd always get the early spuds in by Patrick's.
Yeah, well, in or about. Otherwise, you wouldn't have them by the 29th of June.
Yeah, I remember my great grandfather.
That was the idea.
And you'd like to have the song done then before the cuckoo came. And the cuckoo didn't come till around the 11th or 12th of April. But you're a cuckoo farmer then, if you had it done before the cuckoo came.
The present year it was all cuckoo, the whole yoke.
So you were a cuckoo farmer, or cuckoo spuds is what I heard. Was that
cuckoo farmer? If you were sowing anything after the cuckoo came.
Yeah.
Usually that had been the last week of April, give or take, depending on when you'd hear or that. But the sort of rule at home here was the 1st of May. If it was the 1st of May, well, you may forget about it.
Yeah, it's late then.
That was a lost cause.
I heard the 22nd of April mentioned as well as the date.
Yeah.
You were was it the 12th, Jim, was it?
For what?
For the cuckoo.
Oh, you'd hear it before then. Even still, we heard it. We didn't hear it this year. But did you usually hear the cuckoo?
You did. You heard it early this year.
I heard it in Corklow.
Yeah, but we'd hear the cuckoo now. I remember at home years ago, there used to be a lot of cuckoos around. But you could hear the cuckoo that time. You could hear the cuckoo any time after the 11th of April. You know, it depended on the year. But I heard it the 11th of April. I can remember I was hardening in grass seed with a horse. And that time they sowed the grass seed and we used to have a seed harrow and harrow in. I remember it was hardening in the far field, we called it. And just finishing up anyhow, and I heard the cuckoo up in the horse field. The horse field was a field up a bit farther from me. And that was the 11th of April, I always can remember that. And I thought that was very early for the cuckoo, you know.
Come here to me as well when I have you there as well. There are other great words, whatever we'd have. Actually, that man from Clare, because I sent you on the words. I met this man the other day and we were talking about stuff. We were talking about the hay bogey. People always, young lads would always like to climb up on top of the trailer. But even back then, this man said they'd always would have loved to climb up on the metal part at the back of the bogey. But one of these words this man from Clare had, Robbie, he said when they'd be going over the kishocks.
Kishocks is a lovely word.
And a kishock, I used to hear my uncle saying that, make sure you drive over the kishock when we'd be in the meadows years ago. Otherwise you'd wind up inside the drain, as they used to call it, or the river.
Yeah. And a kishock was a
kishock, that's what I used to hear him calling it, and how you pronounce it or how you spell it properly, I don't know. But he used to always say, make sure you drive over the kishock.
Kishock Kishock means a boundary, or it also means a causeway. A causeway originally made of wattle. To go over a bog or something like that. But there's actually down in Cairn, there's a place called the Cross of Kisha. And I'm sure it's either a boundary or again some sort of causeway. And you'd stay on that, otherwise you'd be in
being shite.
Well, it'd be pluddach or any amount of things.
Because this man said to me, he said when they were taking the bogey out of the field, he always remembers he's either his uncle or his grandfather, someone saying, stay on the kishock, meaning stay on must mean the track or the hard stone he had. Other kind of words, whatever, that was a Clare word I got off that man. Was it here in Wexford we use the word sprung.
That's it sounds to me it's English because of the word prong.
Yeah.
But it's off the top of my head that I don't know if you call it research.
Yeah.
But now we'd have, it depends how many tags you'd have. But like I've heard people say that a sprong is only when it's got 2 tags, others when it's got 3, and others say when it's got 4. Yeah. And they'd have different words for...
a sprong was always 3 or 4 for us, standard,
we used to use a sprong for the hay. A pitchfork and a sprong are synonymous, I think. They're I think they're the same thing. Well,
sprong is for sprong and dung, like four tangs, whatever we call it, or the pitchfork then would be 2. But other parts of the country they call them a grape, isn't it? And a pike as well is another name for a fork.
Peak in Irish.
Yeah, peak is for
peak is a pike.
Yeah. But come here to me. We'll move on from those things. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I have a great song that from 2 men, Ronan and Phil Berry, father and son, from down near, just down where they're from, down Tangan way. And it's a song that was written, well over 100 years ago, late 1800s as far as I know, by P.J. McCall. P.J. McCall wrote famous songs like Bull of Vogue, Kelly the Boy from Clan, Follow Me Up to Carla, a pile of standard or ballads here now. But this is a great trashing song that he wrote, and it's lovely because it's very rare because it's a working song. And I recorded this in Owlert Hill, or in Tulloch and Tullish on Owlert Hill, a couple of weeks ago. And it's lovely because the 2 men are working and talking and singing to each other. I'll stick it on.
Oh, brilliant. Threshing, they call it in other parts.
Yeah, and it's funny, and that's the funny thing. It's threshing is the word, but again here in Wexford we go to trashing. We call it the trashing.
Oh yeah.
And like the word for a patron. We call it a pattern.
A pattern here, but pattern down our way.
Yeah.
Pattern.
Yeah. So come here, we'll stick the berries on.
Very good.
Yeah, Young Berry and Noel Berry here. Ronan and Phil Berry. It's called the Trashing Song.
The higher stands we've emptied and the shades we've carried in, to the corner of the barn, to the thatches piled within. Young Matt and Pat lie opposite, the flails hung in the air, for there's money due and prices too are well and pretty fair. What a whack from Matt and a smack from Matt, the flails like birdlings flying. What a whack from Matt and a smack from Matt, the goldings quickly flying. They're sure to get in Wexford by and by, for there's never a man who'd be better off than supply. Last year the rainy weather put our noses out of joint. The wind kept every morning blowing from the rainy point. The hay was bad, the corn be dad was nothing less but straw. We'll make up for that or no for what when this to town we draw. What a whack and a smack from Matt, the flames like birdlings fly. What a whack and a smack from Matt, the boardings quickly fly. A pat and a par, and they're sure to get in Wexford by and by, for there's never a man who'd be better off than thank God the sun so constant shone all through the harvest days, and the pretty digging keeping dry, we picked them at our rails. The big gold champions split their sides with laughing in the pot. We'll make up for that or no for what when this the town we draw. What a whack and a smack, the flares like birdlings fly. What a whack and a smack, the boardings quickly fly. A pat in the barrel, they're sure to get in Wexford by and by, but there's never a man who'd be better of our can supply. We wouldn't give a tranny, only mother died last shroft. She loved her 2 big garsoons with affection kind and soft. She said, when dying, Matt and Pat, let nothing ever part ye two, and God be with you with the blessing of me heart. When I whack from Matt and I smack from Matt, the flares like birdlings fly. When I whack from Matt and I smack from Matt, the boldings quickly fly. A pat in the bar, and you're sure to get in Wexford by and by, for there's ne'er a man in that be better bar he can supply. I wished There's someone coming with the noise I cannot hear. Sure, there's only little Nell to say that dinner time is here. Hang up your flails and I'll go bail. We'll cherish and enjoy a pound of bacon wrapped in greens and a tatey pat me boy. What a whack and a smack from that. The flails like whirling swiftly. What a whack from that and a smack. The bowling's quickly. A pound of Ireland is sure to get in Wexford by and by. For there's never a man in County better Ireland can see.
So that was Phil and Ronan Berry. But before we were looked at Phil and Ronan Berry, we came up with the word pattern came up, Robbie.
Yeah, and patroon in Irish. But it's the patron saint. It's probably from Latin or French.
Yeah.
Patron. But the thing is, in Munster, the pattern days as well. They used to have a Sunday, the last Sunday in July, just before the harvest as well, and it'd be Crum Dubh, which was another hag, by the way. And this is I think it's very coincidental that it's very close to Lunas again.
Yeah.
And Crum Dubh was, I think I've seen it depicted as a hag, an old woman, but also as an old Celtic god, and the god again of fecundity. It's decay and also fertility. So it's I'm thinking that these Crum Dubh days in Sundays in Munster, and they're in the schools collection as well in Kerry.
Yeah.
For instance, in the 1930s, people remembering the Crum Dubh, they're celebrating the Crum Dubh. Will be general festivities around Lunasa, the Sunday before Lunasa, effectively.
Some of our patterns are linked in with Lunasa. I remember it was Edward Culleton's book on the early Christian Wexford. Just thinking off the top of my head now, you put me on the spot. But I think it's the one in Dunamore. There's a couple of the pattern days in Wexford were linked in with Lunasa. He assumed we're linked in with Lunasa.
Well, our one, an awful lot of the patterns are in July, and our one in Tecumseh now, I think, is the second Sunday in July.
Yeah.
But they had an expression, Hungry July, and a lot of the travel writers in the 19th century would say Ireland very, very happy people, but come July, the sun would be splitting the stones, all the rest of it, but people would be very hungry in July.
Wow.
Because not enough spuds would have come in yet, and generally the corn, the harvest hadn't come in yet. The cows, the milk producing, I don't know why, but generally it was called Hungry July. It's a motif, and it's in the old Irish literature as well. That it's a long way we are from it.
Yeah.
That it stay that way.
Here was another pattern related thing. I remember look back at an old recording with my mother and grandmother in about 2002-3. And they always had that the spuds were dug on the 29th of June. That was a kind of standard one all over the country, all over the county. But they also said that the spuds, after the pattern day in Dunamore, they'd always come home and dig the spuds. Both of them had a recording of both of them saying it.
The pattern in Dunamore, they always done the spud.
Yeah, the pattern day, but that's going back years back though.
July.
You'd have good spuds then, alright.
I don't know why that was. I don't know whether any other pattern days had features like that where you'd have a feast or you'd have something else. They were famous for fighting. That's I suppose so many of the pattern days were known for fighting, faction fights.
Yeah, there was one in they had St. Anne's Fair in Tom Haggard.
Yeah.
And that was known for its faction fights. And the two gangs, the Cairn and the Kilmore lads, had come up, neighbouring parishes of course.
Yeah.
And they'd come up and they'd be at Hell's Bells.
Yeah.
And there could be 10,000 going to that at its height in the mid 19th century in St. Anne's.
Yeah. Over here as well, I'm looking out to the window here again. Over here in Killan or Kilteely, whatever. There's one little spot where two parishes met, as far as off the top of my head, and again famous for baiting head off each other. But the GAA sorted all that out.
Well, that's where the hurling came from as well. It was stick fighting. That was a very handy thing. Donnybrook Fair was banned in 1854.
Yeah,
there's a jig called Donnybrook Fairs. It's under the same air as Easy and Slow, the Jim McCann song.
Yeah.
And with the same air, but it was a jig. But Donnybrook Fair was banned because of the fighting was so bad, and that's where the word having a Donnybrook. I know people use it nowadays, but in America, they used it up for a good while. Have a Donnybrook was to have a big fight.
Yeah, well, there's also the song Donnybrook Fair as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's a song Donnybrook Fair. Who do I know sings it? God, I can't off the top of my head. I think there's a traveller woman I know sings it.
Well, the jig is
and Alien sings it.
The jig goes like this. Well, I
tell you what, if I find the Donnybrook Fair song, I'll put it on now. If I don't find it, we'll just carry on.
Promise she'd bring me back to Donnybrook Fair to buy me some more ribbons for to tie up my hair, to welcome my Honderland when she'd come to town, as does a bunch of green rushes I will go on mow down. Though she's young, tall, and handsome, high by a breed degree. Her parents, they dislike her, just because she loves me. Her parents may dislike her, let them say what they will, whilst there's a breath in my body, I do love my love still. Like down birds in down forests, where they build their nest, they'll sleep there contented with the dew on their breast. Shall rise up the morning, she may whistle and sing, but as in that sun setting, they return home again. Where I wrote my love letter, and been all after time, I wrote them another, which been bound down with twine. I wrote them another, and I will dare let them know that young maids are false hearted where rubber to go. But I wished as I never loved any at all. Loving's the occasion which about my downfall. Loving's the occasion and a torment to me. I am herein close chin shall I ever be free.
Good man, what do you call that?
The Donnybrook Fair.